President Biden telling Republican governors to bring it on as they prepare lawsuits to fight back against his sweeping vaccine mandates that are going to impact up to 100 million Americans.
Look, I am so disappointed, particularly some of the Republican governors have been so cavalier with the health of these kids, so cavalier with the health of their communities. We're playing for real here. This isn't a game.
And Republicans sound like they're happy to oblige, calling the mandates patently unconstitutional.
I don't think it actually helps to get more people to ultimately do it, but I do not believe that people should lose their jobs over this issue, and we will fight that.
We live in America, and you would expect words like that from the president, maybe of communist China or of North Korea.
This is not a power that is delegated to the federal government. It's unbelievable to me what he is doing. I knew he'd wreck this country.
And it looks like these vaccine mandates are just the beginning. The White House says buckle up, because there could be more along the way.
Is he now considering mandating vaccinations to fly domestically?
We are always looking at more we can do to protect and save lives. Obviously, he made a significant and bold announcement yesterday, so I haven't anything to predict or preview for you, but we'll continue to look for ways to save more lives.
All right, Geraldo, say there's just an essential worker who worked during the pandemic, frontline worker, there every day. Maybe she caught COVID, and now, because she doesn't want the vaccine, because she has immunity, is going to get fired. What would you say to her?
Well, you're asking an emotional, personal question. As a lawyer, I could give you the constitutional argument.
But you're not an emotional person, Geraldo. I've never heard that before.
Jacobson versus Massachusetts makes very clear that individual liberties, like that lady, very sympathetic person that you described, her liberties are not absolute. The state has what's called police power. The state has the right, in the state's wisdom, or lack of wisdom, to determine what the rules are.
Well, there was lack of wisdom with that precedent. They ended up sterilizing like hundreds of thousands of women, decades ago, because they were crazy and they were having imbecilic children. That was the agreed upon consensus back then.
What irks me is to see all of these governors, most of them Republican or all of them Republican, as I am, saying this is blatantly unconstitutional. This is unconstitutional. The Constitution of the United States, they don't even read the Constitution. They have no idea what they're talking about. They're not lawyers. And the law has been on the books since 1905. 1905. In other words, even this Supreme Court would have to reverse over a century of precedent to give the individual the right.
Katie, that's if Joe Biden can argue the science, which he's having a hard time doing. If you're going to say you have immunity, then why do you need the vaccine? Or what if you have 99 people under your employment? So what is the difference there? If you're going to let illegal immigrants cross, no vaccine there. Is it an emergency? Not for them.
Apparently it doesn't affect them.
No.
The Babylon Bee had a great headline this week saying the Constitution has died of COVID. I'm not sure that President Biden reads the Constitution either, and an argument that is being made is that this is a states' rights issue and that the federal government actually doesn't have broad power to mandate issues like this. But I want to dispel this myth, first of all, that's going around that if you are anti-vaccine mandate, that you are anti-vaccine. That's something that the White House is trying to pin on Republicans. And also, Republicans have done a very good job of Ron DeSantis is a great example of this, of getting the vaccine available to vulnerable communities. I remember earlier this year, Ron DeSantis was accused of a pay-for-play scheme because he was so efficient at getting vaccines into the Publix grocery store system by 60 Minutes. And it was such a bogus story that the Democrats were even defending him on that. So this idea that Republicans are somehow being cavalier or aren't concerned about people's health is a total lie. And in fact, a lot of Republicans, like Arizona Governor Ducey, has faced a lot of criticism for being too harsh on things like lockdowns for gyms and restaurants. So it's just not true what the White House is saying in terms of trying to force Republicans into this anti-vax box and act like they are the saviors of the country by now mandating this vaccine and ignoring natural immunity.
This could go on forever. If it mutates, if there's another variant, it's booster after booster after, it never ends. Permanent pandemic.
Well,
permanent emergency power.
But here's the thing. This has nothing to do with the virus, and that's what's shameful. This is tribalism at its worst, and the American people, Republicans, Democrats, it's all political. They're not, if either one of them just looked at the science and said, we're going to figure this out the right way, but the Democratic, their new agenda is that if you're not taking the vaccine, you're a Trumper, and you're against government. And if the Republicans, whatever they say, we're not going to play with anyways. Instead of looking at just going back to the science, because if both parties were focused on the science, there would be some line of agreement, but it's just tribalism. They can't, even Gutfeld had an interview with President Trump, and in the most classy way, he talked about how important it was to be vaccinated. He tried to convince his wife, Gutfeld's wife, to be vaccinated while respecting her. That's what you would expect from President Biden. That's what you would hope to get from governors, but it's not about that. It's political, and who's suffering? Us. Small business owners, their necks are getting stepped on by this rule. You have 100 employees, and if they get vaccinated and if they get they get a bad effect from the shot and they can't work, you have to pay their salary while they're out. That's not going to be open to fraud at all. That's not going to be taken advantage of. So they barely get through COVID. Then in certain parts of the country, they deal with a hurricane. Now you're telling them that they have to fire employees if they don't get vaccinated and support them if they get sick. How do you expect small businesses in America to survive this?
We talked about not following the science yesterday. He comes out there, he says, Dana, we need to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated.
Yeah,
that makes no sense.
I just wrote down how incoherent that was. Is that he wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the vaccines do protect you, but we have to protect you from the unvaccinated. And I understand what they mean in terms of breakthrough cases, but if you just look at the numbers, you have to look at the numbers. You are talking about life and death decisions, you're talking about businesses, all of that. I am just continually surprised at how the White House has a total blind spot in its communications to a huge part of the country. Did anybody here watch The West Wing?
Yes.
Remember Ainsley Hayes?
Yes.
Ainsley Hayes was the Republican that they hired, and they put her in the basement. And every once in a while, President Bartlett would call her up and be, what do you think of this? And she'd say, you're crazy. You should not say that. You should say it this way. And I don't understand why they don't have somebody like that there. Do you remember yesterday I said, I don't understand why he's giving this speech today. We're about to go into a very important unifying weekend to mark 20 years since the 9/11 attacks. It wasn't urgent. None of these things seem to be urgent. It hasn't even been a month since he started the federal vaccine mandate, federal employee vaccine mandate, so you don't know if that's working. And I have a theory.
What is it?
This is a great theory.
They wanted to try to change the subject from Afghanistan. Don't really care that much to talk about 9/11 very much, though he's going to go to 3 places, but he's not going to give a speech anywhere, just one video. I think they did this for Gavin Newsom,
Boom.
governor of California, because the Democrats in California really wanted this. What happened in the first hour after the speech? The LA County School District mandated that any student in that school district that is eligible for a vaccine must get the vaccine.
Gave Newsom cover.
Well, and gave him a little, you want turnout? You want Newsom to look like he is got an ally in the White House? I think that it would be interesting to ever find out.
You know, it's true because they rushed the rule. The rule's not even written yet.
Right. And they didn't, why wait, they couldn't wait till Monday after the 9/11 attacks because the election is on Tuesday.
Exactly. Dana
That's my
Perino
theory.
with another theory.
She's right.
They're usually right. Usually.
We'll see.